Hi everyone, thank you for joining. Welcome to this version of What's New at Klaus. We've got quite a lot on the agenda for you today. We've got a few different speakers and we're going to look at, firstly, we're going to look at the Spotlight feature and some updates there. We're going to look at new updates to AutoQA. We're going to look at a new version of assignments, which we're going to be releasing shortly. We're going to look at some quick fire updates of some smaller things that we've done in the last few months. And then we're going to have a Q&A session as usual. So before we begin, if you have any questions, please post them in the Q&A tab, which should be on the right-hand side. And we will get to those later when we get to the Q&A section of the webinar. And the webinar recording, that will be sent to everybody who's registered, even if they didn't attend. That will be automatically sent after the webinar. So let's dive straight in. The first item on the agenda is the Spotlight feature, and I'm going to hand over the mic to Anna Maria.
Hello. Welcome everyone who has already tuned in. Glad to see you here. And as mentioned, I will talk about the Spotlight feature today, as it recently got quite a few new additions. So as a small intro, obviously, when doing QA manually, you really want to know where your resources are going. And essentially, the art of conversation sampling is what makes QA effective, at least when it comes to manual QA. And manually going through interactions and trying to find meaningful conversations to review can only get you that far. But luckily, Klaus's AI-powered conversation discovery feature, which is Spotlight, can help to do the deep diving for you. So what it does is it automatically highlights the insights and the significant interactions for your team. So previously we had two Spotlight filters available for our users. So the first one is the outlier filter. So it was previously called Spotlight. So anyone who has used that before will know that there has been this little change that happened. And how outlier works is that it's based on a statistical model, which is custom made for your team. And it's like an intelligent filter, essentially, that automatically finds the conversations that are atypical or out of the ordinary for your team. So again, a very good filter to kind of find things that are not maybe as usual as they should be for your team, and great conversations to review. And the other one has been the sentiment filter, so both positive and negative. So it highlights interactions where customers showed delight or frustration. But now we have introduced new filters to the selection. You can see a little screenshot. I will quickly or shortly go into the product with you as well and show how it works, but I will run through what has been added first. So maybe most excitingly is the churn risk filter. So essentially it highlights the interactions where the customer has expressed the potential risk for attrition. So it identifies when a customer expresses the intent to stop being a customer, or if they mention moving to a competitive alternative. So this is a filter that kind of moves us a little step away from just showcasing support information and things to improve in your processes or knowledge, but also kind of showcases business value that you can then take away with you and maybe potentially give to your higher manager or other management levels to showcase that, hey, that support adds really great value, kind of covering such cases as well. Then there's escalation, which detects if a customer has asked for higher level assistance. So, for example, someone has asked to talk to a higher manager or someone else from the team. Then there is follow-up. So it uncovers if a support representative has asked to undertake a future action. So something just you want to check, okay, have they actually done that in the end? And also, as we just don't want to highlight the negative things, but also celebrate when things are done well, then there is a filter called exceptional service that you can use to celebrate the wages and jobs well done. But now let's see how it all looks like in the product. So essentially where you can find the Spotlight filters is first in the conversation view. If you open up the filters, they are in the bottom part of the filters. So you can see them here. Here I have the churn risk added as detected. So again, you can combine them, have different setups, but I will show you first how it looks like when I just choose one. So essentially how it works, again, you can use them just as filters. But even if you don't have them set up in your filter search, we always highlight the interactions where we find the spotlights. So here, even though I just selected churn risk, we also see here that in this conversation also negative sentiment has been found. So for example, even if your setup has a completely different filter search, you can always see, okay, is this interaction something that I really, really want to kind of highlight? Then obviously you can have different setups as well. So for example, here I have a filter called turn customers. So here I can have added churn risk has been detected. Sentiment in this conversation was negative, but in the end, the customer satisfaction score was positive. So here, this can be a very good example of turning around an upset customer and using that as an educational moment for other teams, or just like seeing, okay, how things could work for your agents in the future. And another solution is that, for example, if you use our AutoQA, you can also say that the AutoQA solution was not given, and also that the escalation was requested. Then this can be used as finding interactions where the agent lacks knowledge in something or doesn't know how to handle the situation. So again, just another example of how these interactions can be found and how Spotlight, in collaboration with other filters, can make this conversation discovery much simpler than maybe you would do without. So yeah, that's it from me, and that's how the Spotlight works. I hope everyone will find this very exciting and starts using them very shortly.
All right. Thank you very much, Anna Maria. Please keep those questions coming. We'll get to them at the end. We'll try and answer most questions live, and any ones that we don't get to, we'll follow up by email. So please keep them coming. And now we'll move on to the next section, which is AutoQA updates. I know there's a lot of people waiting for this. So over to Dave Bullock.
Hello. So yeah, my name is Dave Bullock. I am the Product Enablement Manager at Klaus, and I'm going to run you through some of the latest updates to AutoQA. But before we do that, let's just quickly take a step back and kind of remind ourselves of what AutoQA is and what the purpose of AutoQA serves. AutoQA kind of solves three different things, but I think ultimately we can kind of say that most of all it just cuts the chaff and makes QA useful. So it'll give you an increase in speed and a decrease in bias. And this makes it your reviewer's best friend. And this is something that we really, really want to emphasize, that AutoQA isn't something that replaces your manual review process, but it's something that augments it. So this is kind of really one of the key benefits, that it's going to make your reviewers' lives easier and more interesting, and also make sure that you, as a team, whether you have a quality assurance team or whether it's your support managers who do quality assurance or whether you do peer reviews, that you're providing meaningful impact to the company as well. But it'll also analyze 100% of your tickets, which again just ensures that value, gives you visibility where you otherwise wouldn't have it, because you can track trends that you otherwise wouldn't see. And then also you get the valuable feedback from having the manual human touch, where your quality agents step in and do that additional review on top of what AutoQA is doing to really, really give the human value. So there's been a couple of updates in AutoQA. So to show you what those are, we're going to jump into Klaus. There's a little bit of a spoiler for what's coming next, but we'll jump back into Klaus first. So here we have the standard review page. And what we're going to do is we're going to jump straight into users and workspaces, go to our Klaus demo account and open up the scorecards. So here you'll notice We have some AutoQA categories already set up. So for those of you who are experienced with AutoQA, you'll recognize this friendly little circle here that denotes an AutoQA category. So there are a certain number of categories that you can do AutoQA for, and we're expanding these as we go. And we'll go through what those categories are, plus introduce you to the two new ones now. So to set up an new AutoQA category, you go to Create Category up here, and then click Use AutoQA. You can also do this on an existing category if you just open it up to edit it and then switch on the Use AutoQA feature. And then you'll see here the list that we have. So we have, most of them are self-explanatory. So greeting looks at whether your agent greeted them. Empathy, whether they showed empathy. Spelling and grammar checks their spelling and grammar. Closing looks at whether they closed the ticket appropriately. Solution offered looks at whether they offered a solution. That's one thing to keep in mind there, that doesn't judge the quality of their solution, but just whether the solution was offered or not. And then tone, which again assesses their tone. And then we have these two at the bottom here, which are the two new ones, which are readability and comprehension. So I'm going to go into a little bit more detail as to what those mean. Readability, first of all, does what it says on the tin. It assesses readability. And so it'll look at things like the length of the message, the use of long or complex terms that don't fall under spelling and grammar because they're grammatically correct, but are just unnecessarily complicated. And then it will assess the ticket based off these. And as you can see here, it is set at a 3-point scale, so it will evaluate it at a 3-point scale in terms of how readable it found it. Likewise with comprehension. Comprehension will look at how your agents respond to what the customer has said to them. So again, it's not going to judge the quality of their responses in terms of your process, because that's where your human touch can come in. But what it's going to do is it's going to look at how well they understood and reflected on the customer issues and customer complaints. And again, for this one, this is a binary scale. Now, the big use of both of these, especially readability, is this is something that you otherwise wouldn't be able to assess in a meaningful way. So if you're doing something like 5% of your tickets, you're never going to get that trend to assess whether your agents are consistently giving readable, very understandable answers. Same with comprehension. If you do it without AutoQA, you kind of get that potluck of, maybe in that particular case they offered a great answer, but they're not doing that consistently over time. So having AutoQA in the background would give you that visibility. Likewise works vice versa, that maybe you read a particularly complicated bad ticket and you give that a review, and that's really valuable because that's a complex ticket and those are the ones that you want to review. But consistently they're otherwise providing very readable answers and showing good comprehension. This is the kind of thing that AutoQA will catch. One really valuable thing that we also suggest that you do if you have Klaus's AI suite is to just create a scorecard with all of the AutoQA categories on them and just leave it running in the background. Because AutoQA categories will start assessing from the moment you enable them. So if you enable them now, even if you don't use them in your day-to-day score, having them running in the background means that when you do start using them, you will have that historical data immediately because they will have already been assessing tickets in the background anyway. So that's kind of like a great tip to do, to just create a scorecard. You can do that here by just create one maybe just called AutoQA. And then add all of your AutoQA categories there, even if you're not using them, so they just tick over in the background. One other thing that we've added as well in terms of AutoQA is something that has been very, very much requested. So we're going to head out of the scorecard page and go to the settings page. And then if we go into settings and go to AutoQA, you'll notice now that we have these three sections here for spelling and grammar, greeting and closing, where we have an ignore list, and approved greetings and approved closings. This is something that we got asked for a lot, and I'm just going to go through what each of these do. So first and foremost, for spelling and grammar, the ignore list is a really, really useful option if you work in an industry where there are, for example, industry-specific terms that are not widely used and maybe flagged as spelling mistakes, or if you work in a business where you have specific product names that may otherwise, for example, be flagged as spelling mistakes. So where your agents are not necessarily making errors, but they're getting penalized by spelling and grammar in AutoQA for what they're saying. So the way that you can do that, you can add an exemption. You can set it per language. The exemptions currently are only for these 4 languages, but we're again working on developing these all the time. And then you would add it in here. So say that you sell a product called Gym Bits, then you can just put in Gym Bits here, and that'll add that as an exemption across all languages or across specific languages. And that will make sure that your agents stop getting penalized for this. Likewise with greeting, you can add or closing. I'm just going to go through these in one go, and we'll do it under greeting. You can add say that you have a script that you want your agents to follow. You can set it here. So you'll notice first and foremost, this is available for a lot more languages. And then you can set your approved greeting here per language. And you could just do like this. So there is the wildcard here, which I'm just going to copy from here and show you. So you can say, hi, this is blank from Gym Bits. How can I help? And you can set that as your standard greeting that Klaus will look out for. And obviously, where you have the wildcard here, that's where the agent will put their name. And if you have a script with these things in, then you can make sure that when Klaus's AutoQA is looking at greetings, it's looking for these specific words. So that's a really good way if you have much more of a concrete process, or you provide your agents with scripts. The same logic works for closing. Again, we have the same languages and the same wildcard setup. So if you had if again you have a specific closing message that's kind of, thank you, is there anything else I can help you with today? You can use it for this. And again, you can use this wildcard for anything. So you could use it for the customer name, for example, or for your agent's name. You just put it in anywhere where you would expect them to put in something that would be outside of the text that you're including there. So that's one feature that has been requested a lot. And so now we have that in place, and that should hopefully help make AutoQA even more accurate. Then we're going to move over to the dashboards, because we also have a new AutoQA dashboard. And this is it. So you will notice immediately it's not quite as visually pleasing as our old one, perhaps, if you're used to that one, but it is a lot more practical, and there's a lot of features hidden behind this that are very, very valuable. And the number one feature that I'm going to give you, because as you can see, by and large, all of the data that you're used to before is here, but what you can do now is click things. This is one thing that we have been requested a lot, so you can drill down into conversations. And as that loads up, that's going to give me a list of conversations that are included in that number. So if I click any number that's on here, say manually reviewed conversations, and I can get that list. And again, sort of modified QA conversations if I want to check how good a AutoQA is doing. Acceptance rate also, not only do I get a list if I click this, but you can also get a graph when it loads that shows you the acceptance rate for each one. And here's a great example where we can see in our case that closing is actually a relatively low acceptance rate compared to others. So by implementing that allowed closing that we looked at before, you could bring that up to 100% potentially. So this is going to give you a great overview of specific tickets that make up those number points that are in your AutoQA dashboard. So like I said, that was requested a lot. Hopefully that's going to make a lot of people happy. Then we're going to move away from the app now, because I'm going to introduce you to one other thing that is in the works and coming soon, which you kind of saw a little bit of a spoiler for, but in case if you noticed it. But yes, we are working on having an AQS score. So you'll be used to the IQS score, your internal quality score, and that's the score that we attribute to agents based off the reviews that you give them in Klaus. What we're going to be introducing in the near future, there is no concrete release date for it yet, but just coming soon, trademark, we will be introducing an auto quality score. And so what that's going to do is that's going to, up until now, where AutoQA will assess a ticket, it doesn't actually submit that as a score. You still have to go in and you have to manually submit that score. But what AQS will do is it will look at what AutoQA thinks the score should be and then provide you with that number. So it'll give you something that you can now analyze across 100% of your tickets. So when we've talked about for the last kind of 6 months or so now, that 100% coverage that AutoQA can provide, this is where we're really, really getting into the swing of that, where you will actually have 100% of your tickets reviewed with a score just by AutoQA without you even touching them. So that's going to be coming in the near future. You can still do your manual reviews, and when you do your manual reviews, you will have your IQS and AQS side by side, so you can look at them both separately. So hopefully that's an exciting thing for all of you coming up in the near future. And that's it from me, and I'm going to hand back to Chris.
All right, thank you, Dave. Lots of exciting updates there. Please keep those questions coming, and we'll keep up the pace and move on to the next section, which is a preview of Assignments 3.0, which is going to be spoken about by Birgit. Over to you, Birgit.
Hi, everyone. As Chris mentioned already, I am Birgit. I'm a UX designer here in Klaus. And yes, I'm going to talk to you about Assignments 3.0, which is a new, improved version or completely new way of doing assignments that will be released in a couple of weeks. So first of all, I'm going to briefly list the 3 highlights that I'm going to talk to you about. And then after these 3 things, I'm also going to do a small demo of how you can create an assignment and also how it will look like. So to start with, the first big change is that assignments can be now shared and assigned. So that means that there are 2 ways of creating an assignment goal. The other thing is reassigning tasks. So now it's possible to assign tasks from one reviewer to another user. And last but not least, replacing conversations. So there's a way to switch out conversations that are not suitable for review. And now to dig in a bit more, then, as I said, shared and assigned assignments is now available. And what it is that when you're setting up an assignment, you can choose between 2 approach methods. So the first one would be that reviewers can choose conversations from the shared pool, which means that there's no more personal goal. There's just one group goal that everyone has to participate in, and every reviewer in that assignment can do as many reviews as they want. The other way to go is the way that assignments currently work, is that reviewers are assigned conversations from the shared pool, which means that everyone will see the group goal and also the personal goal. And on the right, you can see 2 small snippets from the assignment task list. So the one on above or on the top part is the one which is open, which only has time left and goal and 3 filters. And the bottom one is the assigned one, which also shows the personal goal or your goal that you need to do. The other thing is reassigning tasks. And it really does what it says. It's now possible to reassign all available assigned tasks from one reviewer to another user in a workspace. And here you can actually see the small reassign model, where the current reviewer is Estelle Williams, and there are in total 10 available conversations to reassign to someone. Even if Estelle has done some conversations, we will not reassign those. We will keep their progress, but the open ones, which are 10, you can reassign to either a reviewer in this assignment or to another user in the workspace who's not an agent. And why we added that is that we wanted to make sure that you can also cover the cases where you need extra pair of hands in the assignment for someone being out of the office. So if you choose a user who's not part of this assignment, they will just be one-time reviewer in that assignment with that goal, and they can just do it, and they will not be included in the next cycle. And maybe last piece to mention is replacing conversations. So in an assigned assignment, no, actually, that's everywhere. In an assignment, it's now possible to replace conversations. It will replace the skip functionality we have now. So user is not able to switch or replace a conversation in the assignment if they find it not eligible for a review. Let's say there's a spam email or something that's been added or pulled into the assignments due to the conditions. But what has changed now is that everyone who replaces a conversation, they have to add a reason for replacing. So there's no more skipping without reasoning. And if the reason is added and user clicks replace, as you can see on the screen on the right side, we will find a new conversation for that same reviewee. If we can't find it, then there's option to either keep the conversation or remove it from the assignment completely. And now moving on to the actual live demo thingy. I'm going to also move to the tab. What I will do now is that I'm in my own workspace. I have two filters here. And what will also be added in is that you can now turn filters into an assignment. So now if I click edit here, I see all the conditions here. And I have this button here which says turn into an assignment. If I click here, which I will do, is that I will be redirected to the assignment edit view in this workspace. And what the turning into assignment will do is that it will bring over the name and all the conditions that were in that filter. And to start it off, I like the assignment name, so that's going to be, I will leave it to be as it is. The next thing is cycle settings. So there's an option to set how the assignment cycle will repeat. There's an option to set the start date and also the start time, and also now to add a time zone. So you can always make sure that the assignment will start at the right time in the right time zone. When it comes to repeating actions, then there's a couple of newcomers here. So there's daily assignment cycle, which allows you to run daily assignments, and also a bi-weekly one. Another change in the assignments is that now the assignment list is loaded or fetched in the beginning of each assignment cycle. So all the conversations will be there in the beginning of the cycles every time. So if the conditions are met and we can get conversations, then these conversations will be added to the assignment and the list will be fixed until the end of the cycle. Now, moving on to reviewers and reviewees. The logic for adding reviewers and reviewees to the assignment stays the same. There's no changes here. What will be new is the fact that you can now really say who should be considered to be a reviewee in the conversations that are selected based on the conditions you either have set from the filter or you're planning to do. So you can say that it's always the workspace default, which is the most active agent in the current workspace that I am in. Or you can say really specifically that all the reviewees in the conversations are amongst the participants, assignees, or most active agents. So in that way, you can make sure that if you have conversations with many agents, you can be sure that a right one is selected. Now moving on to the conditions. Conditions are now unified with the conversation filters one, so there's no split in there whatsoever. And that being said, you can add more filters here. You can remove the one. There's also all the spotlight filters here that Anna Maria was talking about before. And it should make build a better and unified conditioning between conversation filters and assignment filters. And now the last step, which is the goal, which I think has the most new things. The first thing is the assignment approach that I already talked about, which is that, well, the option is that whether reviewers can choose conversations from the share pool or they are assigned specific conversations, which means that they have their own personal goal. I'm keeping it to be a shared pool one. Then there's an option to say whether or not reviewer can be assigned their own conversations for reviewing. And what it means is that if you allow self-reviews in your workspace, you can also say whether or not reviewer can actually leave a review for their own conversation. And it also affects the goal calculation for the some of the cases here. And we also brought in replacing, as I mentioned before, but we also allow you to say whether or not reviewers should actually be able to replace conversations in the assignment or not. Managers can always do that there might be cases where reviewers might not be able to do so. And we have 3 review goals. So the first one is that reviewers must collectively review a set number of conversations. And you can either say that's in percentages. So let's say based on the conditions you set, reviewers will review 5% of those conversations. Or you say conversations and then you set the number of conversations that need to be reviewed. The other one is each reviewer must do a set number of reviews, which means that the goal is calculated how many per reviewer, so how many reviews they have to do. And last but not least, each reviewee must have a minimum number of their total conversations reviewed. So that's reviewee-based goal. And if you choose that, you can also say that either per reviewee, 5% of their conversations have to be reviewed, or you still say that each reviewee must have 5 reviews. So a new thing here is that we brought in the percentage. And if you use a percentage here or any other goal, you can also specify minimum reviews for each reviewee. So if you turn that on, you can actually control the fact that every reviewee will get at least minimum 5 reviews, which is quite important if the numbers get large. And if you are finished with the assignment, then all you can do here is check the preview, make sure that everything is according to your plan. You can see the reviewer and reviewee numbers. And if you're finished, you can create an assignment, and this assignment will be created for you. And if you have created an assignment, then this is how it will look like. We still have some things under construction here, but this is the same assignment I created now, which was an open pool 1. So as a reviewer, I see how much time is left. I see the goal, the team goal, and I see all the tasks that are here. And I can also see if someone has already started a draft review on it, so someone is working on it. And what I can also do is that I can start to leave a review and submit it and make sure that this conversation or this task is now done. And that's it from my side. I hope I covered the most interesting and basic things from the upcoming assignments, and I'm gonna pass the mic on to Chris.
All right, thank you very much for that. And then we will move on to the last section, which is quickfire updates, and I will take you through that just a few more minutes, and then we'll get on to your questions. We've got plenty of questions coming in. Okay, so quickfire updates. The first thing we're going to look at is a Praisebot. So now you can connect Slack, and anything, all the positive feedback you're getting from customers from your CSAT surveys or your CES surveys can now be sent directly into a Slack channel. That can be a Slack channel which already exists, or you can create a specific Slack channel exactly for this. And if we go to the next slide, you will see how we've implemented this at Klaus already. So we created a customer say, it's called customer say, the channel in Slack. And every time we get positive feedback, that might be a positive score or a comment as well, then that is fed into a Slack channel. We have everybody in Klaus there. It's great for morale. It's a great way for us to show what support's doing and how we're doing and the kind of things that people are saying about us. So that is the Praisebot. That's the first update. Moving on, the data retention feature. If you connect to your help desk, or if you edit a help desk connection in settings connections, you can now add a data retention period. So that can be 1 month, 3 months, 6 months, or 1 year. And what that means is that after that time period, we will delete inactive conversations. So these are conversations we're pulling from your help desk. In this case, in the screenshot, after 1 year, we'll delete all of the customer conversations from Klaus. So this is a data security measure. The good thing is that we don't delete the reviews connected to those tickets. They'll still be visible in the dashboard and in the activity view. And moving on to disputes updates, we enhanced the flow. We made things a little bit easier. So now when somebody disputes a review that a review has done, you will see, firstly, if you can look at the screenshot, you will see that this agent, who is Dave, has disputed this category solution with a thumbs down. And you can see the initial score that was left by the reviewer with a dashed border around it. So it was thumbs up in this case, and then Dave disputed and gave a thumbs down. One difference as well is that you only need to change the disputed category. You will only see the disputed categories. Before you saw all of them, including the ones that have been disputed. Now you only see the disputed ones. So out of our 6 or 7 categories we have, only 1 was disputed, only 1 shows here. Another change as well is that you need to actually change at least 1 category to accept the dispute. Before, there was a bit of a loophole that a reviewer could accept a dispute without actually changing anything. Now we change that, which is better for the agents. It means that you can't just accept without actually changing anything and leaving the score as it was. And the last thing is you can now partially accept. So if an agent disputes 6 different categories and you agree with 4 of them, but you want to leave 2 of them as they were, then you will partially accept that dispute, and that will show here and in the dashboard as well as partially accepted. Next up, we have help desk fields in the dashboard. Lots of people have asked about this for a long time, and now we've added this. So now we're syncing the fields you have in your help desk into the Klaus dashboard so that you can filter using those fields. So you can see there the standard help desk fields and custom ones as well. And the last thing is optional other root cause. So before, when it came to root causes, reviewers always saw the other option. So they didn't have to choose one of the predefined options. They could choose other and write a comment. But now you can remove that if you wish, meaning that your reviewers are obliged to select at least one of those predefined root causes, which is generally better for data purposes rather than having lots of written comments. And that is everything for the quickfire updates. And next we will move on to the Q&A session. We already have plenty of questions here, so I will read out the questions and then I will pass them on to the person who is best suited to answer those questions. So the first question we got was from Panos, who said, what is considered an atypical case? And I will direct that question to Anna Maria.
Yes, so regarding the outlier filter, so previously it was called the complexity filter, which kind of also summarizes the functionality really well. So what outlier does, or like what the statistical analysis in the background does, is that it analyzes this conversation metadata in the background, which includes reply count, message length, both from the agent and the customer side, and other properties. So obviously, we know that something is going wrong or something is different from our, let's say, usual conversation flow if we have a lot of back and forth, like the messages between the agent and the customer are really long, and things like that. So it detects already such type of interactions, and that's like a first indicator that, okay, this is taking really long to solve. lots of back and forth messages, like the conversation is just ongoing for a longer time that maybe is usual for your team, and that's already flagged as outlier. So that's just like one example of how it can look like, and then you can filter it out and go and see, okay, is this really something that needs our attention? And is this something that we can potentially solve with our better macros, better processes, things like that? So it's just like a first indicator that this is really a longer interaction than maybe what has been done in the past. I hope that answered the question.
Thank you, Anna Maria. I'll just add that if anybody wants to follow up on these questions, you have further questions, our support team is there ready to help out. So you can access the support team from inside the app or from the website. Move on to the next question, which is from Bruno. If one of the outlier specific filters are applied, will it exclude any conversation that doesn't have that characteristic? The answer to that one is simply yes. It will exclude conversations that don't have that characteristic. Next one, Mohammed says, spelling and grammar, does it only work with English, or are you able to use it for different languages? It's available in English, French, German, and Polish currently. Moving on to a question from Alexandra. AutoQA spelling and grammar was also evaluating some parts of the tickets which are not related to the agent's performance, such as coding, disclaimers. Is it possible to avoid it somehow? In this case, and if there are other people on the call as well that are seeing things like this, the best thing to do is contact our support team, and we'll chat with our data team, and we'll see. We can ask for some examples, we can present examples to them, and then see what we can do to improve that behavior. Amelia says, with AutoQA approving greetings and closings, will setting an approved greeting mean the AutoQA will mark down for other greetings aren't approved? Or is this feature just to correct the AutoQA and make sure it approves certain greetings? And I'll pass that question to Dave.
Yeah, so that's a great question, actually. And that's so what it will do is if you put an approved greeting in there, then it will mark with a thumbs up if that greeting is present, and then won't mark it if that greeting is not present, because there are reasons why you may provide a different greeting. For example, if a customer came in specifically in a specific way that it would be unfair to mark people down on. At least that's the way we've set it up for now. We are constantly developing things, and it may change, but you can keep an eye on this webinar for more updates, or keep an eye on other product updates in future. But yeah, so for now, what it will do, the behavior will be, is if you add an accepted greeting or an accepted closure, if the agent provides that closure, thumbs up. If they don't provide that closure, then it just will not be graded by AutoQA. And so what you could then do is you could then use a filter to set up ones that don't have an AutoQA grading for greeting or closure, and that would basically filter out everything for you where your greeting has not been used, and then you could evaluate if it was not used correctly, for example. So it's just another way to surface tickets for you to review.
All right. Thank you, Dave. Move on to the next question, which I believe is from Alicia. Do they have to add a reason, the reviewers? Is there a way to replace without a comment? And that is about assignments. And I'll pass that on to Birgit.
Thank you. Currently, there always has to be a reason for replacing, and why we really specifically brought that in is that there were a lot of cases where people were skipping because they were lazy, or no one really tracked it and no one really knew. So in order to avoid skips that are just skips for skipping, this is now called a replace. And replacing will try to, instead of skipping it completely, it actually allows the user to get a new conversation, which is better. So replace the old one with the new one. And currently, yes, there has to be a reason for it.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to the next question. I'm going to pronounce this Camille. I'm guessing it's a French name. I hope I got that right. Sorry if I didn't. In the assignment filters, we have review status not reviewed. If AutoQA reviews 100% of the tickets, it won't be taken into account, right? This is a question for Dave, I believe.
Yeah, I can take that one. So yeah, just to kind of clear up any confusion on the AQS score there. So you have IQS and AQS. IQS being the manual review, AutoQA score being the score that AutoQA thinks that the ticket should have, which is, again, coming soon. But your assignments will always work on the basis of IQS, so whether a score has been provided manually to the ticket, because AutoQA will review 100% of your tickets. It doesn't always catch everything, so there are some where it leaves categories blank, but it reviews 100% of your tickets anyway. So if you set up a filter where it's not reviewed by AutoQA, that would leave you with very precious little tickets to manually review and wouldn't give you the benefit that doing both provides. So it's very, very simply just whether it's been manually reviewed or not when it comes down to filters for assignments.
All right. Thank you. Just a few more questions. Alicia, assignments. Can we set multiple goals? For example, reviewee percentage and reviewer amount. Birgit can answer this one, I think.
At the first version, I'd have to say no if you really do mean that you can actually, in the goal options, select 2 radio buttons. Then right now, no. But I think it's maybe interesting case for our product research to contact you later about it.
All right. Very good. Thank you. Next question is from Jill. Thank you for removing the other option. So this is referring, I think, to the disputes. There's another option. Can we have the option of removing not applicable at workspace level 2, please? I think this means inside of the scorecard, as a whole on the account, you can remove the option for reviewers to select not applicable. And Jill would like this in the workspace. I think this would be a feature request, which I can submit on your behalf for sure. Does anybody want to add anything to that?
We also removed other from the root causes. So there's no more other option in the root causes. If that was about that, then...
Yeah, I think I got confused. I think I said disputes, not root causes.
It's okay.
I don't know why. Root causes. We removed the other from root causes. Maybe the question is about removing not applicable from the general scorecard. But I'll follow up with Jill about that by email. Next question from Marlena. Is it possible to click on the link where the AutoQA found the mistake and be transferred to the chat via the AutoQA dashboard? Dave again.
So is it possible to click on the link where the AutoQA found the... Sorry, I'm just trying to make sure I get the question first. Yes, yes. In that sense, yes, I do understand. I'm sorry, I had to read that through in my head several times. So yes, on the dashboard where they are clickable, it will give you a list of tickets, and I can actually demonstrate this if we can still switch to my screen. Let's have a look. Yes, we can. Great. So if you clicked on this, so this is again the modified AutoQA conversations. If you click drill into conversations, and then once that loads, you get here. We have the conversation ID and the workspace. You click on that and it will take you to that conversation. So yes, it does and can. If I understood the question correctly, I hope I did.
That's good. That's good news. I remember in the first version, you had to go to conversations view and create filters to see the actual tickets that got low AutoQA scores. Now we've improved that, so you can go directly from the dashboard.
Yeah. That's the big benefit, and again, that's why, like I said, when we were demoing it, that's why this was such a huge requested feature from all of you, and that's we've really listened and kind of taken that on board because we understand you do want to see that, especially for AutoQA.
Yep. All right. Next question from Sirisha. Can we add solution parameter as well to AutoQA and link any doc with the solutions? I think we're staying with Dave with this one. Don't want to ambush you.
So I hope I'm understanding this question correctly, and it is, again, a question that we get quite often, that it's I'm assuming that what you're asking is, can we, if you have, say, a knowledge base or an internal knowledge base where you have a product database that explains your product features and how your product works, can you link Klaus to that to use that to assess solutions and actually assess the quality of the solutions in terms of your process? The answer to that is no, not currently at least. Not to say it's something that we won't do, but it is something that's very, very complicated to do in an accurate and sustainable way. So it's something that we definitely are very much aware of, that lots of people are asking for this. But there's a couple of reasons why firstly, it's technically challenging, but also secondly, the question is where we would take that information from, whether it's a public knowledge base or whether it's a private knowledge base, how we would get access to those, and how we would read the different formats of those documentations to make sure that that's actually useful. So I understand why it would be useful, and it's definitely something that we're very, very aware of and is always on the radar, but it's not something that we're currently able to do now.
All right, thank you. And then I think the last question for now is following up to my assignment replacement question. Can we track the responses, Birgit?
Yes, you can. In the generated assignment task list, there will be a status which is called removed, which basically indicates that it lists all the tasks that were removed, and it will also show the reason there. Another place where you can see them in the future is we are working on revamping our new dashboards in Klaus. They will look more similar to the AutoQA one that you saw today. And in there will also be a card for the amount of times conversations were replaced. And you can also see the reasons there. But that's a bit coming a bit later than in a couple of weeks.
All right, thank you. If that was the last question that we have, I think, if you have any more, please quickly type away. If not, we will go on to the last part, which is just a few shout outs. So firstly, the knowledge base. Shout out to our knowledge manager, Diana. She just went through every single knowledge base article and checked that it was up to date and accurate and as good as possible. So we have a very accurate, hopefully, knowledge base, support.klausup.com. Please go there to find out more. We also have product updates at klausup.com/product updates. Following this webinar, we will send a webinar newsletter to summarize what was discussed, and we will also send the recording. And I will just finish by saying thank you for joining. I hope it was useful. If you have more questions, please do come to the support chat. We are there. We're ready to help. Does anybody else want to add anything? Nope. Dave?
Nope. Just thank you for listening and turning up.
Yep. Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.